evening and welcome to the Thursday, December 5th, Trotwood Board of Education Board Work Session. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Ms. Allen, excuse me, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Torrington,
Present.
Mr. Lumpkin,
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons. Yes. And Mrs. Cherry.
Yes. Can we stand for the pledge, please? Next, we will have our mission statement read by Yasmina Omaha.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yasmina. I attend Trotwood-Madison High School. I'm the junior class president, but I also attend Miami Valley CTC for vet science. I'll be reading the mission statement. The mission of Trotwood-Madison City Schools is to graduate all students prepared to excel in a global society with a commitment to lifelong learning by guaranteeing a challenging curriculum facilitated by an innovative and dedicated staff, community participation, and state-of-the-art resources in a stimulating atmosphere. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, subject E is to adopt the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I do not have any changes.
No changes to the agenda. I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I motion.
A second.
Ms. Allen, it's been properly moved in second. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Lumpkin,
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons,
Yes.
Mrs. Torrington,
Yes.
and Mrs. Cherry.
Yes, motion passes. The agenda is adopted as present. Next, we have presentations. We will have a grant presentation.
Just one note, Jill Adams will not be presenting this evening. Mrs. Murdoch will be presenting the grants information for Mrs. Adams. Mrs. Adams is out. So just want to give the board the heads up with regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I did just pass down to you a grants booklet that Ms. Adams prepared with an outline of all the grants that we have that serve our students in Trotwood. So you will see on that first page, on the inside of the cover, just the general breakdown of the amounts of each of the grants that we have, and the total there, that's just a little over $4 million total in grants. And then on the subsequent pages, there are some descriptions of the purpose for each grant and what we have budgeted the money towards. So the first grant listed in your booklet is the Drive to Succeed budget, and that is the the Drive to Succeed grant. That is the grant that we applied for and received funds for that will pay for the behind-the-wheel portion for students to get their driver's licenses. So this is the second year we've had that grant. It's $15,000, so we can pay for up to 25 eligible students. 13 have already completed the program, so we hope to make sure we spend that money efficiently on another 12, spend that whole amount, and then we'll reapply so that we can continue with this grant so that our students can get their licenses. And I would like to say Ms. Adams shared with me that Mr. Miller at the high school has been very instrumental in communicating with students, advertising it to them, checking their attendance, checking their GPAs to make sure we are spending this money. The next grant in your booklet is the Early Childhood Education Grant. It is pretty much what it says. This goes to help fund services for preschool students so that they are ready for kindergarten. Most of this grant we spend on salaries, so we are able to pay for 3 preschool teachers through this grant, and then we also pay for some supplies and materials, things like sheets and manipulatives, things that they need in the classroom. The next grant is the Expanding Opportunities Grant for Each Child. This grant is specifically for low-income students or low-achieving students. It is also what it says, to expand their opportunities. There are several categories that have to be adhered to spend these dollars. It can be spent on advanced coursework, career pathways, personalized learning, credit recovery, and academic acceleration. So currently, we're using this grant or have it budgeted to pay for our college Credit Plus courses, including the materials like the textbooks that they need. It can be used for supplies for any new courses. It can't be used for existing, but it can be used for new courses that provide opportunities. It can be used for credentialing, and then it can also be used for credit recovery coursework. And the next grant is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. This is a grant to help support our special education students from ages 3 to 21. Most of this grant is in salaries and benefits. It provides intervention specialists at the middle school and high school, a paraprofessional at the high school, and a case manager to track the records of those students who have IEPs. We also have an IDEA Early Childhood Special Education Grant. So similar to the other early childhood grant, this one supports early childhood students who also have special education needs. And this is a smaller amount of money, but this money does partially fund the salary of an intervention specialist. Next in your book is the Teach Arts in Ohio grant. This is a grant that we also applied for and were awarded. This is to expand arts exposure and give hands-on experiences to students with the arts. This is specific to Madison Park. That was what the application was written for, and it does provide an artist in residence, a visual artist in residence to the Madison Park students. And my understanding is that artist is working with the other specials teacher to incorporate visual arts in multiple content areas. And then we have our Title I-A. This is one of our largest grants. This is a grant that provides supplemental funding for low-income students to improve academic performance. This grant has to be used to supplement. It cannot supplant. So it has to supplement any required curriculum, any requirements that are already in place. So we have used that to fund special personnel and programs. So right now we're paying our instructional coaches out of our Title I-A funds. They had been on ESSER before. They've been instrumental in some of our district initiatives, so they are now in Title I. We have reading specialists in each of our elementary schools. That's also played out of Title I. Paraprofessionals that are assigned to kindergarten classrooms, elementary school counselors, and then other expenses include supplemental interventions, supplies for any family engagement activities and events, and we can also use this on classroom supplies and materials as needed. The next grant in your booklet is the Title I Non-Competitive Supplemental School Improvement Grant. These grants are given to schools based on the academic performance of their students. So Westbrook Village and Ram Nation Virtual Academy both have money in these grants based on that performance. The monies are used for additional professional development, and they can also be used for things like tutoring, like last summer when we had students go to Sylvan for tutoring, we used some of this grant money for that. The next one is Title II-A. This is money that is all focused on professional development. So that includes the professional development we offer to all teachers on our professional development days. It also includes tuition reimbursement, and that's why you'll see the larger number there in benefits, because that does cover the tuition reimbursement that we offer to our certified staff. And another area we spend money on is on professional memberships for some of our certified staff. Title III is listed next in your grants booklet. This is a grant that's specific to English learners and immigrant children. It's a pretty small amount of money. As our population grows, we'll see these grant dollars grow as well. Most of the money from this grant is spent on interpreter services. And the last grant in the booklet is Title IV, Student Support and Academic Enrichment. It, like many of the others, is what it says it is. It's to improve the conditions and learning experiences for students. So that includes well-rounded students. So we use that money for our Muse Machine Artist in Residence at the Early Learning Center, Madison Park, and Westbrook, as well as for Muse Machine performances and student memberships. This grant also covers school conditions, which includes safety. So we also are using it to pay for our additional school resource officer. And then on the back is just an acronyms list for you for many of the acronyms that are listed in the grants. And if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them.
So I guess I have a question. So all of the grants are state funded?
Federal or state.
Federal or state? I mean, I guess the source isn't on.
I'm sorry?
For each grant, the source isn't indicated, so.
We can indicate that for you, but many of the larger ones are federal
Federal.
grants, like the titles are federal.
Okay.
Similar, if you see the grant summary, the first three numbers, if it starts with a 4, that indicates it's a state grant, and if it starts with a 5, that indicates it's a federal.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
Okay. Yep. Thank you, Sally.
I have one question about the Sylvan tutoring. Approximately how many students do we have in the Sylvan tutoring, and how effective is that?
So they were in there just for the summer,
Just for the summer.
sorry, and it was about 30 students. It was
Okay.
29 or 30, I don't remember exactly. So we are still tracking those students to see what the impact was. We looked at their MAP scores in the early fall. There was some variety, but we did see that most of them at least maintained what they had had in the spring, so we didn't see a summer slide, so that was good. One of the benefits from Sylvan is also just more resiliency. It's very confidence building, as well as giving students new strategies. So we hope to follow that group, see what their MAP scores are again in the winter, and then see what their OST scores are in the spring.
So the 29 to 30, do you know about the age group?
They were mostly third graders. We had some third and fourth graders mostly. I think we maybe had 1 or 2 fifth graders, but they were mostly third and fourth.
How were they collected?
They advertised in their buildings, and Sylvan came to both of those buildings and held a family night.
Okay.
Now, the principals did do like some targeted invitations, but they kept it pretty open.
One thing I would like Ms. Murdoch to speak to very briefly, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I think it's important that the board does have just a very casual and general understanding of the amount of English learners that we are starting to see in our district. Talk very briefly about the 2 specific languages that we discussed the other day.
Yes.
And just some of the situations, yeah.
I
Yes.
told you I was coming.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, because the grant is in
No, not
there.
at all. So I don't have that exact number, but I can tell you, we ended last year with about 40 EL students, and I think the last time I checked, we were about 58. So we've been increasing quite steadily, and I think even last year when I started at 40, it had been like 25 the year before, so we are seeing a very steady increase in those numbers. Our speakers are pretty much split half and half between Spanish and Kinyarwanda.
Yep.
Okay? And I mean, as you know, many things are translated easily into Spanish. Kinyarwanda is a bigger need, so we did also, and you saw that on the agenda, hire a bilingual language specialist who speaks Kinyarwanda. He also speaks French and Swahili, so that and he's not only going to assist the students during the school day, he will also be a liaison with their parents and has already acted in that role, and very positively. So we also did just get our website updated so that everything can be translated. It's at the top right if you're looking at the website into Kinyarwanda and into Spanish. Yeah, so definitely a population we have concerns about, and we have some plans moving forward. We know we need to offer some additional services and coursework for them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murdock.
You're welcome.
I just want to let the board know that, as you can see, there's no ESSing, about $25 million. We submitted the final expenditure report on Monday, and within 10 minutes, we were approved. And so that's amazing, because over the last 4 years, we've dealt with that $25 million, and we did purchase services, did salaries and benefits. And so now that, obviously, that money is no longer a part of the grant total. I just wanted to let the board know that. And that's part of my treasurer's update.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Murdock. Next up will be our treasurer's report.
Yes, I have 2 items this evening to discuss, and the first one is for information only, and that's the approval of the November 7th and November 21st meeting minutes. B is I would like the board's approval to pay for board member training compensation for the Ohio School Board Association. Each board member did submit to me the number of hours on the particular days that they attended, and it's $60 for 3 hours or less, and $125 for more than 3 hours. And so this chart that I put together will be documentation to pay you guys for that. So I'm asking for approval for me to pay you for that, and that's per policy 0147.
So I will need a motion to approve the board member training compensation for OSBA conference.
A motion.
I'll second.
Ms. Allen, it has been properly moved in second. Will you call the roll?
Mrs. Currington,
Yes.
Mr. Lumpkin,
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons,
Yes.
and Mrs. Cherry.
Yes, motion passes for compensation for the OSBA conference training.
And that's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Allen. Number 4, superintendent's report.
Thank you. I have 2 items this evening, one for information and one for action. A is a copy and just a review for the board of the school calendar. Our CBA has some information in it that kind of directs us with regards to how we process and develop our school calendar for the following year. In your folders, in your manila folders, both calendars, we've put together 2 calendars for the board review and then also for TMEA review. These 2 calendars will go to TMEA and they will vote on which one they prefer, and then we'll sit and we'll have some conversation about which one, best suits the district for the upcoming year. But I wanted to share with the board those 2 calendars that we have shared and come up with collectively between the TMEA and the district administration. And then next meeting, I will ask the board to vote on that calendar, the one that is selected. I'll ask the board to vote on it. All right?
And just to add to the superintendent, that language is in the negotiated agreement, that it has to be approved before, the end of the year, or in December.
That's why it's, yeah, coming on. The next agenda item, B, is a request for action on the personnel agenda. As said to you guys earlier this week, very small agenda. Couple of separations of services, resignations. Ms. Cherry did have a question on what the resident educator mentors were, and those individuals are, and Ms. Murdoch, you can correct me if I'm wrong, those are employees assigned to new teachers in the district. That's the state program. New teachers are required to have a mentor from a seasoned teacher, seasoned certified person. So they receive a stipend for that work. But other than that, some additional supplementals and IAT chairs. And I am asking for action on that this evening.
As Mr. Howard stated, he has already sent the personnel agenda for our review. Does anyone have any questions? Then I need a motion to approve the personnel agenda.
I'll make the motion.
I second.
Ms. Allen has been second. Would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Simmons.
Yes.
Mrs. Currington.
Yes.
Mr. Lumpkin.
Yes.
And Mrs. Cherry.
Yes, the motion passes for approval of the personnel agenda. Next is our discussion items.
In your folders, the document labeled B is a summary of graduation information from Mrs. Haig at the high school. These are some of the numbers we discussed earlier. Mrs. Haig is going to be updating these numbers at the first of the year once the semester is over. So you'll have a little better understanding of where these kids actually are. Total senior count, 233. The green information are the students that are on track. Red are some students that are still in need of some additional support. So currently there are 145 students that, as of today will be able to graduate. There are 88 that are still working through the process. In the new year, once we get back from the holiday, I will have Mrs. Haig and Mr. McCray possibly come and talk to you guys just a little bit about what those alternative pathways are, what additional supports are being provided, what are the things that are going on at the high school to ensure that, that those 88 seniors have the support that they need. We've been here before, where we've had, a group of kids that at this point we're still behind, and most of the time they make it. So we're really working to try to ensure that these kids get through, and I'll make sure that the first of the year we have that information for you guys on what are those supports and what are those alternative pathways, specifically giving you a little more information about what the alternative pathway process is.
Can you also provide the parent participation and I know that.
Like how we
this,
contact them?
them.
Yeah, okay.
And how actively involved are the parents?
Gotcha. Not a problem. And that was the only item I had.
Okay. Any questions, board members?
Do we know what the specific number is of enrollees in the alternative pathways?
Not yet. I can get that information for you. Yeah, I
Okay.
can get that. Because some of those 88 kids can, if they do what they're supposed to do, they can funnel their way back to the traditional pathway. Some of them. Some of the other ones will have to go that alternative pathway. through the credit recovery process and, through those supports that we have.
Did you get that information too?
Yep.
Okay.
One more question about graduation. When will we know last year's number?
As far as the,
Like how it's gonna, because the state report card has a lag, right?
right. So with some of the work that we've done here in the district, the number from last year will be reported on next year's report card. Yeah, so that's how that
So
works.
do we know what that number is yet, or?
Maybe not specifically, maybe as soon as they work through, and I'm looking to Ms. Murdoch, because we kind of worked on this a little bit, maybe they working through some of the details, but we believe that we met the state percentage for graduation rate, which is 2 stars, right, 2 stars. Yeah, a little over 85%. Thank you.
And what number do we need to reach to get to?
And it speaks to some of the work that we've kind of done collectively with regards to the data, making sure that our data is clean. And Ms. Allen, I think she may speak to this a little bit too, but, we had a discussion earlier in the year where I talked about when we have, all of these groups, these principals, and everybody needs to have their hand in making sure that our data is clean. And what we did is we ended up finding, I think, 7 students that were not on our roll, that were not, were not kids in our district that would have counted against us. So we got rid of those 7 students. Got rid is a harsh term, but we removed those 7 students, and that moved us from 1 star to 2 stars. So it's extremely important that we make sure that we all have all hands on deck to identify those kids that are actually in our district that are graduating. And Ms. Murdoch and Gail Neese and a group of folks, because Gail went to each building and she is in the high school, and she sat down with the folks in the counseling department to try to find these kids. And once we found them, because what happens is if they withdraw,
It stays on the state report.
if we don't verify where they are, we have to verify where they are. So if a kid just withdraws and we don't find out where they are, they stay on our log. So we have to do more than due diligence to make sure we go out and try to find and locate these kids. And we located 7 of them that were not on the roll. So I don't know how this has been in the past. I don't know if that's something that that has hurt us before, but it's not going to hurt us anymore.
Who is assigned to that information?
Big pardon?
I said, who is assigned to this?
Well, it's going to be a collective group through the counseling department, through EMIS, who is responsible for reporting the information. But now it's just not going to be her. And I think I talked about this several weeks ago. It's just not going to be her, because she needs that support, so they can let her know, like, okay, well, we haven't seen this kid, or because these are the folks that are dealing with the kids every day. And I think we were just we were relying on information.
How often does EMIS change the how often do they update the number of seniors? Do they just do it once at the beginning of the year?
I think it's an ongoing process.
It's ongoing.
Yeah, I think it's
Every
an
single
ongoing
day she's running reports,
Yeah.
and not necessarily graduation reports, but she's running reports on kids coming in, kids going out. Just every single day she's updating to the state. I mean, by the minute, all day long.
Do we have
Every
it,
day.
I'm sorry, do we have a formal withdrawal process?
Absolutely. Yeah, we absolutely do. But what happens is they come out and they formally withdraw. They go through the process. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
sometimes.
what I was gonna say,
Right.
sometimes.
And Miss Mallory, right. And sometimes they just leave.
Right.
Our role until they connect to another school. Where they're just kind of hanging out there. and
But it doesn't,
enrolled in another school district.
But it doesn't automatically report back to us when they enroll, right? We have to verify that.
Find it.
So they don't send back for their record to be transferred?
And you would think that that was the right way to
Yeah.
do it, but it,
I would think you would need your record to,
But I mean, like, that's like that can hurt your graduation
Yeah.
number, really,
Yeah.
like.
There are a lot of schools now that will request records, but that doesn't mean they're going to enroll in schools.
okay.
So they may request the records and look, like, and so then the parents still out there maybe looking or it could be wherever. They request the records.
and you think about 7 kids. You know, 7 kids is, for us, is the difference between 1 star and 2 stars.
Right, we're talking about
Yeah,
Third or fourth grade
Right.
out there, we're talking students
our seniors,
17,
right.
18, you know.
might just
Be
drop
doing it
out.
on their own. So I think we, no,
thank you.
thank you.
I
No,
appreciate
thank you.
that.
I appreciate that, because, you know, you have the information. I think that's why it's so important now that our process internally is that we have more hands and we have, you know, we have more eyes on making sure we know who the kids are in our field.
I do have one more question.
That's fine.
Because this number 88 sort of looks just like the number last year. At this point, when I came, it seemed like we had 88 kids. There were 80-something kids that
Mhm.
were not on track to graduate.
On track, the traditional pathway.
The
right.
traditional pathway.
Correct.
So my thing is, don't we see this before their senior year, and is there something we can do to bridge the gap before they get to their senior year?
Absolutely, and that's something that I've talked to Mr. McCray about, and Ms. Murdoch, in the sense of, you know, we've got to develop some more detailed alert warning systems or processes that we have in place to, you know, because you got some kids that are gonna do their thing, you know,
Right.
which is nothing, some of them, you know, and let's be honest. But you also got some kids that if they had a little more support or some, you know, some other things. And I know I know the high school has worked with a lot of those kids, but there's probably some other things and some additional processes that we need to have in place to ensure that that number is not as high.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about a senior year. This is really stressful for the staff at the high school. You try to,
Yeah.
to
That's
try to,
almost half of your senior class.
yeah.
That you have to work with.
Which speaks to what they do, because traditionally what happens is most of those kids, most of them make it. Some of them don't.
They do.
Some of them don't.
But
But the reporting that was given to us last year didn't have, it didn't include kids in alternative pathways, I don't think. So like, the number was smaller because the alternative pathway kids weren't actually in the number, which is
You mean the graduation number?
right.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about, it was like about this many kids that,
No, it was less kids that were off track because this includes the alternative pathway
Yeah.
kids. So really, the information that we were given just didn't have the alternative pathway kids. So you see what I mean? So it looks like 60% of the students are not on track to
Right.
graduate, but that's because they've done the due diligence of adding
them
that there are kids that are in alternative
pathways
pathways.
instead of, yeah,
Instead of just saying, oh, we only have 20% of kids
on track.
that are not on track.
Track, yeah. Okay.
So basically what I'm saying is the information we
What you're saying.
do. Exactly.
Gotcha.
So, look for that update, towards the first, maybe the second meeting in January, once those grades are all finalized. All right, that's all I have on that one.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Howard. You have any treasurer comments?
Yes, I did pass out the treasurer's update, and we talked about 2 of those, but I just want to reiterate about Gail Lees, our English coordinator, really happy that she took the time and to dig in and find those 7 kids. She worked with, it was a team effort, the curriculum and the superintendent's office, the treasurer's office, and we all worked together as a team, and we just gotta continue doing it. So I just wanted to give her a shout out, for doing that. And then there's a new process, not a new, but we're going to, the per diem, have used it for the board, and I said effective meeting, in January, we will be implementing the per diem, just for meals, and, therefore, a per diem means that, no receipts are required for a meal, so that will cut down on some of the back end, work that we have to do in terms of, reimbursing employees. So, we did have a policy and an administrative guideline on how we should do that, and, I do have that, information. So I wanted the board to be aware that the entire district will be going to present. And then at the bottom is, upcoming meetings and, proposed vacation schedule. So that's all I have to say.
Any questions for Ms. Allen? Number 7, moving right along, superintendent comments.
All right, in your folder, the document labeled C is a copy of the superintendent's update for December 2024. Just general overview real quickly, a lot of different holiday programs that are coming up. So if you have any opportunity or any time to stop through some of those. Also, there is a list of all of the meetings that we'll be attending that I will be attending this month, and some of the things that I have going on specifically. I do want to make highlight to the last statement in the summary at the top, that we want to congratulate 3 of our student athletes that will sign national letters of intent this Friday at 10 a.m. to play college football on the Division I level. These 3 athletes are Jamel Clark. He will be attending the University of Massachusetts. Jamil Atkins, he will be attending the University of Kentucky. And Barron White, he will be attending Youngstown State University. This is the early signing period, if I'm correct, so there will likely be other students that get an opportunity in the late winter, early spring, and they'll sign as well. But one thing I want to be, real serious about, and make sure everybody understands, to get into the University of Massachusetts, or to get into the University of Kentucky or Youngstown State University, you've got to be a student. You've got to qualify. So, the misconception and stereotypes about kids that, they just up here doing this or, playing football, those kids aren't doing any work. We got a kid that got qualified to go to the University of Massachusetts, as a student athlete. So, I think that's profound and exceptional. And those young people will be signing tomorrow morning with their families. And that would be, I believe, it would be in the auditorium tomorrow at 10. Also, we have DLT tomorrow here in the central office boardroom. And there are a couple other things. The junior ROTC drone competition at 9 a.m. on the 14th. Always pretty cool to see those groups come in with their drones and work those things. And then one thing that I did not add, on the 7th, Saturday, the city of Trotwood will be having their tree lighting ceremony at the Trotwood Library, and our middle school band will be participating. And it's from 4 to 6. So if you have some time on Saturday, please try to come out if you have some time. I'll try to stop by just for a few. Also, a couple of flyers with regards to some other programs. These programs are also documented on the update. First grade winter program, the 17th and the 18th at 1:15, and then Not Your Average Winter Concert. I don't know if any of you guys had an opportunity to attend the high school band and choir concert last year. It was a real exciting and pretty cool event. So they're scheduled to have their winter concert on the 12th. And then the last thing I have for you, the document labeled F, I sent each of you a invitation to fill out some information with regards to, Board Appreciation Month. It should be in your email. Mr. Lumpkin has responded, and with a big old picture.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a big old picture. Yeah, Mrs.
It said include a picture, didn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a big picture too.
You know, excuse me, sir, following instructions.
Miss Cherry sent me a picture too, so if you ladies don't mind, when you get a chance, check your email. There's a couple questions that we're asking you, and send some pictures, a picture, a headshot if you have one, because we'd like to recognize you guys, in January on our social media platforms and some of our other communications that we send out, because it is Board Recognition Month in January. So there are 4 questions there, and then, if you can send us a headshot if you have one, we appreciate it. All right?
I'm sure Mr. Lumpkin had a big headshot.
Well, it actually wasn't a headshot. It was kind of like him sitting on like a throne. That's what it was.
I'm not surprised.
I just want the public to know that it's okay. When people bully you, sometimes you just have to smile. Even when it comes from staff members of the audience, you just have to smile and move on.
But so if you could get that to us as soon as you can, I appreciate it. All right,
And
that's all I
please,
have.
you should also note that, because Dion and Luana they have this tendency to put these glamour shots. No catfishing pictures on the board, on the Board Appreciation Month pictures, please. Your board members.
We will not do that.
We don't want any Patterson High School 1983 pictures in your board appreciation pictures.
We all get along so well.
We're a big happy family.
That's all I had.
That's all you have?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, next we will have our board member comments, starting with Mrs. Currington.
I would just like to say that over the holiday break, I did attend the food bank when they gave out food at Trotwood. There was a pretty nice crowd that came through. So it was pretty neat. I saw Officer Derek. He wasn't feeling well then. Glad to see that you're feeling better. But we had a good little time. It was really cold, but a lot of families did come out and a lot of people did receive meals. So kudos to whoever put that together with the Dayton Food Bank. Also, I'd just like to thank everyone for attending and everyone for rolling up their sleeves and doing the work that needs to be done to move the district forward. That's all I have.
All right. Our next comments come from Mr. Lumpkin.
All right, well, so the first, congratulations to our student athletes that are signing to go on to college, to Massachusetts, Kentucky, and Youngstown State. So we're looking forward to seeing you guys perform on Saturday. But I want to make sure that we address some things that happened over the last couple of weeks before the holiday with us making a decision to announce a board vacancy. We don't come to the decisions of making, or we don't make those decisions because ultimately our citizens choose who represent us. And the citizens have the right to choose who they want to be on their boards of education and their city council. So it is never our intention to have to make the decisions that we did make. But once we've been elected, we have a responsibility to make sure that we are good stewards of the community's money, of the taxpayers' dollars. Being in attendance is one of the things that you have to do to be a good steward of the taxpayer dollars. The way that we're represented matters. And a lot of the times when the media comes and they want to put cameras on Trotwood-Madison, always notice that it's always something negative that highlights us in a poor fashion. And this situation was no different. We as a Board of Education didn't release, all we did was say, refer to the resolutions, which the resolutions included the following. We got information that one of our board members had ran under the pretense that he lived in the district and we found later in a sworn document to Montgomery County Court that he filed with the court that he did not reside in our district for the entire period that he was serving on our Board of Education. So what that means is that at some point he put some documentation to the Board of Elections that said he lived in Trotwood, but then later filed with the Montgomery County Common Pleas Court that he didn't live in our district. Our board still at that point doesn't have the power to remove a member. So everyone needs to understand that we don't have that power to remove a member just because, even if a sworn document says that you violated election law. We can only censure and recommend that you resign. That is what our board did. Upon us giving that information, passing that information on, that board member decided that he wasn't going to show up to any more of our meetings, which isn't just a bad representation of the Board of Education, but it's also a bad representation of our community. So the one thing that I'll challenge the media to do, whether it be Dayton Daily News, Channel 2, or Channel 7, please make sure that when you're talking to members of our Board of Education, that you're talking through our board president. All of us were contacted individually to make comments. None of us did because we speak through our board president and through the resolutions that we provided. Anyone that is applying to serve on our Board of Education, understand that if you are a person that doesn't have the intentions of our students first and don't want to, and you want to be a person that wants a lot of attention on you, those days in this community are over. It is about the development of our student. It is about taking care of our staff. It is about being responsible stewards of our taxpayers' money. The reason why I'm so passionate about it is because there were some things said in the media, especially about those of us who are new to the board, that we didn't want to work with certain members. And that couldn't be further from the truth. We don't have any problem with working with people with differing ideas, as long as those ideas as a collective are going to help our students move the bar forward. So I think it's important for us to put that on the record. Please, if you're out there and you want to know what really happened, refer to the public record and to the resolutions that were presented, and the actions that happened after those were the reasons why we had to move to make the decision that we did. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Lund. Thank you very much. Vice President, Mrs. Simmons.
With that said, it's always our goal as a board to keep the focus on the students. So again, congratulations to the 3 students that will be signing tomorrow morning for the Division I scholarships. That is a major accomplishment. And as Mr. Howard and both Aaron said, to be a student athlete is phenomenal, and to get a scholarship for Division I, that's not easy. So let's applaud those students and their parents and the staff behind them that push so much. Also, I would like to acknowledge our staff for being ahead of that English as a second language. I work for Premier Health, and we have seen a tremendous amount of families that speak Kinyarwanda. So that is definitely a need. So I would like to applaud our district for being ahead of that. Some districts have not caught on yet, and there are a lot of those populations here in Trotwood actually working with a family, and she was, after my appointment, she was on her way to the district this morning, and she had a great experience her first time coming up. I said, was there an interpreter? She said yes, and he was good. So I felt good about that. So keep up the good work, staff. As we move into the holidays, give yourself grace, relax, do some self-care, enjoy time with your families. You've worked really hard all year, and thank you, and we appreciate you. Happy holidays. We have one more meeting. One more. Yes.
Thank you, Vice President, Mrs. Simmons. I just want to also congratulate our students who received the scholarships. And I want to say that we have great students. We do. We have great students. We have great staff. So not only does the students matter, the staff matter. So we all work collectively to try to move our district forward, and I'm proud of those students and their parents I wanna say that. Great information, Mrs. Murdoch, that you presented to us today. Thank you so very much for that. I also wanted to say that the deadline for the applicant for the board vacancy is December the 6th, which is tomorrow. And so anyone who is interested in applying, you have till tomorrow to get your application in and your letter of interest. For the board, I would like to ask if we could, I know this is last minute, and I'm sorry, but throw out a date for next week for the interview. It's last minute, but I'm asking maybe kind of like December the 10th, or maybe we can share that information after executive sessions.
We'll make it work.
Okay, we'll make it work, okay. And also, I really want to thank Mr. Lumpkin for being so thorough and detailed with his comments. We appreciate you.
It's important that we speak to the truth of things that happen. We can't just allow narratives to be painted about our community that just aren't true. And it's been happening around here for way too long, so no problem.
Again, thank you. And that's all the comments that I have. So, yeah. So now, I want to make a motion to enter into executive session, to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual per BOE policy 0166 and ORC 121.22 G1 action may be taken. I need a motion.
A motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Allen, it's been moved in second. Can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Currington?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Lumpkin?
Yes.
And Mrs. Cherry?
Yes, motion passes, and we will enter into executive session at 6:22.